Good morning, traders. This is Wilkey with StartupTrading.com. It is 8:42 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. So looking back at the previous session, on Friday's close, remember we had all that action going on. We had, quadruple witching, and then we closed on the lows, and then we had some trades that went off below the bell low. So we had underwater trades and underwater closes on everything except for the NASDAQ. It just had underwater trades. Then we open up Sunday night, we gap down into some longer term support areas, and we respond from those. So what ends up happening is we end up basically just having an inside neutral day for everything except for the NASDAQ, who has a bullish day yesterday. So looking at the economic calendar and what's going on today, we have 9:45 flash manufacturing PMI. At 10 o'clock, we have new home sales of Richmond manufacturing index. But these aren't, big star events. The only reason I really noted them is because there's not a whole lot going on this week. There's really not any earnings. There's not anything notable, even for me, until tomorrow before the bell. That's paychecks. So let's look. We haven't looked at this for a while. Let's look and see how the comparison charts are doing. We got the NASDAQ over the last 5 days up. So we've been basically between -1 and plus 3.5 in the last 5 days, with the Russell being the lowest and the NASDAQ, being the outperformer. But if you look at, really what's going on over the last days, you got the Dow and the Russell, then the ES, then the NASDAQ. Same thing with the 10 days. You got the strong outperformance by the NASDAQ and the Russell being back to the laggard with the Dow and then the ES. Looking at a 15-day chart, everything is pretty much the same, right, except for the NASDAQ. Looking at 20 days, they're a little bit of a tighter grouping, but still plus 6 to 8%. And then looking at 60-day cash, you can see still outperformance by the Russell. So the NASDAQ had overtaken the lead for a little while and then was, shot back down. And then looking at the year-to-date cash, everyone is underwater year-to-date. The ES actually did get up and barely get to unchanged or slightly positive for the year. And then, that's when we started, backing off. But the NASDAQ is just still up there, really outperforming. So if we look at the overnight action, 85.75 points. So 85.75 points. These are the two draws I was looking at coming into the week, right? We had a short draw from the high of 32.2050 down to 29.2375. And the only reason I was really watching this is because last week's range that we really couldn't get out of, that traded within 2.5 hours on Tuesday, right, basically ended up being this 78.6 on this draw compared to the 38.2 long of the long draw coming out of that same low to high. So those two were in battle with each other, and they still are until we basically get over 31.57. I think the longs have, done much more control, but I won't erase this draw until we get over here. Keep in mind, I do have just basic profile support or in resistance right at around 31.71. At 31.70.75 is where I've got it marked off, and we've really held this 30.61.5. Even on that flash overnight, we were barely under it. So I'm going to zoom into the recent action. So we opened last night, right? We had trades go off above the bell high after the close. I'm leaving the split distribution on there from Friday. So this is no man's land between 31.05 and 31.15. As we we're crossing up over trying to hold the upper distribution last night. We had that fake news come out, took us all the way back down to 30.60.5, and then as soon as everyone figured out it was fake, they just reversed it and come back up. So as you come across, basically we're sitting here going back and forth with no man's land for several hours, and then we got that pop out of it around 2:45 a.m. And we've been, up in that upper distribution since. Looking at all the indexes, they all printed trades above the bell high, And if this is an underwater close, when you have a close that's under the bell low of the day, these are pie in the sky closes, and they all closed pie in the sky yesterday. Every single settlement was above the bell high yesterday. So traders to the long side really need to keep price above that area, and because of that flash down and that trade back up that caught everyone off guard, it has helped get everyone up and above this sky marks from yesterday. So as we do, I'm going to still watch this split distribution for the ES, the S&P 500. I still have the split distribution down here marked for the NASDAQ as well, but it comfortably held that yesterday and that upper distribution. So looking at the sequences overnight, and you can see they're going to be really difficult to read. I'll let Jack get into anything that's coming out of these lows, if he's even looking at anything coming out of these lows overnight. You're going to have to go to a much smaller time frame to find something on this. So as you had that fake flash, you pretty much got right back up to where you were before, kind of churned around just a little bit lower, and then decided that that's the way we're going. So on the left side, this is from yesterday. So the VIX was hugging the lows yesterday also, which is healthy for the bullish sentiment. And if we look at these green dots, this is buying pressure. So we got buying pressure all day yesterday, holding the 50 long, the 38.2 long, and then overnight, everything is just very aggressive to the upside coming out of that fake news flash. Same thing with the Russell, lots of buying pressure yesterday and very aggressive, holding its sequences higher. So looking at the NASDAQ, since we beat the ES up a little bit, I mean, you could go back and look at this previous high that was set basically on June 10th, and we could throw, a marker there just as a reference. But that's really where we, topped out at. Yesterday we even incrementally beat it, and then coming up above. So that's going to come in around 10,160 for me. So as we come across here, just that would be a minor line that I'm watching. I'm not going to put too much weight into it because I don't want to even dot this out, even though it is at an all-time high, until it proves that it's some type of a major support or resistance. But there's really not too much going on here. You're going to have to rely on other technical analysis to find upside resistance, right? Because we haven't been here before, all-time highs. So looking at the Russell, right, and the NASDAQ, remember, is at all-time highs. We still haven't even got back above 1462.60. So doing that would be something to watch today, and that we've basically drove into support overnight at 1403, and now we're back up to 1462.60. We could just churn if we can't get going this morning, and then maybe pop over it later. But watch this line. We could even just wiggle back and forth of it, try to erase it, and then it'd be more meaningful tomorrow. But above there, if we do get something aggressively going to the upside, I have 1496.30. Looking at the Dow, the Dow has come right back up into this 26,300, basically 26,297. And as we have done, it's the same thing with the Russell, right? There's really not much support or resistance below here that's significant. And then we have some more resistance above, and you can see that's really what we were stalling last week. That's going to come in at 26,510, and then above there, it's still that void, right? Raceway up, raceway down. So that's going to be 27,100. 27,100. So, that could be an upside target just under there for the week, possibly. But we'll see if we can get through these resistances, right? We could, kind of slow down up here and just fill back in and forth to the higher part of this node. And I would say, holding 26,000 is really all it needs to do yet today. So looking back at all the indexes and kind of putting a wrap on this, and I will send out my overnight value areas and point of control, and those have been very good references for the day to see if you can hold above the overnight value area or if you get trapped in it. And remember, I do value area high and low as zones. So watch the zone, not necessarily one price level. And I'll shoot those out on both on Twitter and in the rooms here at Startup Trading. So we are above previous day's highs, so obviously we're above value area highs. As we are coming up, right, we had that flush, right? This should make this more of a stronger level of support. It's going to take something to get it back down, but one thing that you can watch of, right, if we start getting back into yesterday's bell range, which is the bottom side of this water, we're going to have some pretty decent sized reversals. That's really not what I'm looking for today, but you have to be aware anything is always possible. Whether it ends up being proved fake or not, later is it still is going to move price, and you've got to be aware of what's going on. So for me, there was really nothing significant about where we bottomed, other than we come down to that 30.61 half, and then we printed basically 6 ticks under it briefly and come back up. So it held support and resistance, and remember that 31.71 basically is above that, and that 31.57 getting above there breaks the shorts on that one sequence I was looking at. But the longs have been dominant. It was a beautiful performance coming out of that halfway back at 30.40 yesterday in the overnight session, and just a solid reaction. Spent very little time under there, and the low was made 9 minutes into the session on Sunday night. I hope this helps. If you like this technical analysis, give the video a thumbs up. If you're not already a YouTube subscriber, give it a add it to your list, subscribe to the channel, and you'll get stuff from Jack and I as we go through and look at the markets. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.